Thank you all for being here. I'm honored, as John mentioned, to be part of this amazing organization, the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, but I also feel like I'm representing here the full network of legal aid providers here in our state that we call the Alliance for Equal Justice, and hundreds of advocates and attorneys who are each day trying to make justice a reality here in our state. So I'm honored to be here on their behalf. And particularly because I think we should be very proud in this state for the network that we have. We actually, despite all the challenges and all the gaps that I'll talk about, I should also just acknowledge what an amazing network of advocates we have here. And that is not just, luck. That is the community here coming together and recognizing this is an important area for investment. And we're so glad that you're part of that. By being here tonight, you're showing that kind of support. And as I was reflecting about tonight, I was thinking about the words that you see here, legal aid and legal services. What does that mean? We talk about it, we mention it, but they're kind of abstract. So I wanted to just share a few examples of what that actually means in our community. In about 12 hours from now, at 8:30 in the morning tomorrow morning, just a short drive from here, in downtown Seattle at the Federal Building, the Immigration Court, the Seattle Immigration Court, is going to open its doors. And tomorrow morning, they're going to have something called the dedicated dockets. And the dedicated docket is a new policy that just started in the last couple of months under the Biden administration. And that is to expedite the cases of families who are seeking asylum here in the United States. This program is focused on families who just arrived. They must have arrived since the end of May. They came to the southern border. In some ways, they're kind of the lucky ones because a lot of times people are being turned away at the border without even getting a chance to seek protection. But some families are being allowed to present their claims, and they're being put into these dedicated dockets in 11 cities, including here in Seattle. And so tomorrow morning, families, and when I say families, frequently what we see is women with young children who've escaped persecution in their home countries frequently, they're going to show up tomorrow morning downtown Seattle. You're not going to probably see them in the local news, but that's the reality that we see. And the statistics that we've seen because of the way that this program is being rolled out are that only 11% of the families that are showing up to court right now have representation. Because even though the stakes could not be higher in these hearings, right? We're talking about people who are claiming that they're going to be persecuted, harmed, seriously, sometimes potentially die if they're deported to their home countries. Despite the high stakes, because it's considered a civil proceeding, they don't have a right to an appointed attorney. So if they have the resources, if they have the money to show up and bring an attorney with them, they'll be able to bring an attorney to court. They do have the right to bring the attorney, but they don't have the right to an appointed attorney. So if they don't have the resources to bring an attorney with them, they'll have to proceed on their own. The judge will tell them that they're going to have to go on their own and fill out this complex asylum application, which is in English, and which they must complete in English, even though the vast majority of people do not speak English. And not surprisingly, if you don't have an attorney, your chances of being to win asylum are very, very low. At least 5 times greater chance if you have an attorney representing your case. So what legal aid means is whether those families that show up tomorrow in court are going to have an attorney, are going to have somebody who can help them make their case. That's what it means right here in our communities. It also means right now we're working with people from Afghanistan who have fled Afghanistan, some of them who had fled earlier. I can tell you right now, for example, I'm working with a family where the 2 brothers were able to escape. They were interpreters for the U.S. military, and they were managed to get a few years ago here safely to the Seattle area. But left behind are their parents, their siblings, who are now at great danger and who've already been threatened because these 2 brothers helped the U.S. military. So we're assisting them to try to figure out what options they have to be able to bring their family here. And we're also anticipating that some of the people who escaped Afghanistan and were evacuated, the lucky ones who got out and were brought to the United States, they're being brought in a temporary process called humanitarian parole. And that means that they're not guaranteed that they're going to be able to stay. They're going to have to go through an asylum process. They're going to have to apply for some form of protection here. Legal aid means whether they're going to be able to stay and they're going to get protection. And I could tell you many stories like that, but I'll just share briefly why, to me, this is such an important work. And that's because of one of the many individuals who have such courage. I'll share a story of one of the clients that I had the privilege of working with directly. I'm going to call her Maria. That's not her real name, but she allowed us to tell her story. She just didn't want us to use her full name. And Maria came from El Salvador, fled a very dangerous situation where her sister had been killed by this man in town who was kind of the leader of a local gang. And the family tried very hard, including Maria, to bring accountability for that killing and pressed the local prosecutor to punish this man. But because of his connections, he was arrested, but then he was quickly released, and then started basically a vendetta against the family who was trying to bring accountability and started threatening them. At some point, brutally assaulted Maria. She was lucky to survive, and that was the moment when she realized she had to flee and came to the United States to seek protection, because she knew, having seen that the legal system in her country had not been able to protect her sister, and wouldn't even bring accountability after her sister died, knew that she had to leave. So she came, she was detained, she came with her son. Unfortunately, this was during the era of the Trump administration's family separation policy, so her son was separated from her at the border. She was brought and detained here in our region. And because of the community that we have here, we were able to make sure she didn't have any resources. She wasn't going to be able to go to court with an attorney. She was going to have to fend for herself after all that she endured and the treatment he had, the trauma of being separated from her son. But because of people like you, we were able to assist her. We were able to get her released from detention. She's been reunited with her son, and she's still finalizing the process to be able to get protection here. And so despite all of the challenges that we see and the demands, what brings us each day to work is knowing that we can have an impact on people like Maria, to make sure that their voices are heard, that they have a chance to make their case in a way that makes it close to justice. So thank you for being part of this community, for allowing us to do this work. And again, we need your engagement. I'm so grateful that you're here, but I hope you will continue to raise your voices to make sure that our system becomes more just. Because in the immigration field, we are continuing to have these fights. And right now, for example, Congress is considering legislation under the reconciliation bill that would provide protection to millions of people in this country, to hundreds of thousands here in Washington State. And we need people to make sure that this is a priority for our federal representatives. We need to make sure that it's a priority for our community and for our legislative officials to continue to fund services like the legal aid community. So thank you for being here. I want to close with just my gratitude, because I know that all of you come and do this, be part of this event, not because of the gratitude, but because you know it's right. But I always feel like it's important for me to share the gratitude that we hear from our clients. One of my most special moments as a legal aid attorney was a few years ago. During one of these family separation sessions, we were helping a group of women who were detained at the Federal Detention Center in SeaTac, and we went in to do this presentation. And these are people who had been through so much trauma. They were in like the worst time of their lives, probably. They were detained, and we did this presentation. They had tons of questions, and at the end, one of them asked, like, how is it that you're here? How are you able to be here? Like, you work for the government? And I said, no, we're a nonprofit. And it's like, well, who pays you to do this? And I said, just people in the community who do that. And it was amazing. And then at the end, this group of people asylum seeker women applauded, just broke into applause. And I was so touched by that. And I want to share that with you because it's so important for us as human beings to be there for other human beings. And I want to share that gratitude back with you. So thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting the legal aid community here in Washington.